the morning of June 6, 1944. A grey, cold dawn breaks over the coast of Normandy. Thousands of Allied soldiers, soaked to the bone and seasick from their brutal Channel crossing, are about to throw themselves against Hitler's infamous Atlantic Wall, but hidden beneath. The sand and shingle of those beaches is something even deadlier than bunkers or machine gun nests. Millions of buried mines, each one a promise of instant death capable of shredding a man or turning a tank into a burning coffin. At Omaha Beach, the American landings descend into a scene of sheer horror. Mines, artillery, and perfectly arranged fields of fire tear entire platoons to shreds. The brave engineers, crawling forward with nothing but bayonets and probing rods, are cut down before they can clear even a few feet of sand. Within hours, the casualties are staggering, mounting into the thousands. The beach becomes a killing field. But just a few miles down the coast, something entirely different is happening. On the British and Canadian beaches gold, Juno and sword casualties from mines are astonishingly low. This isn't luck. It's invention. Rumbling ashore ahead of the infantry are tanks that look like they VA escaped from a Madman-esque workshop. There are vehicles with giant rotating drums flailing the sand with heavy chains. Others are unrolling huge mats across the soft ground, creating instant roadways. Some are even belching fire or launching massive demolition charges. To the German defenders peering out from their concrete bunkers, these contraptions must have seemed utterly absurd. That is, until they saw what these strange machines could do. These were Hobart's funnies, and they were about to clear the path to victory. The story of these incredible machines begins not on the battlefield, but in Britain's darkest hour. By 1940, the nation stood alone against Nazi Germany. The fall of France had been swift and catastrophic, exposing every flaw in Allied tank design and strategy. British tanks were obsolete, their tactics were outdated, and their leadership was timid. And who was blamed for these failures? Among others, a man named Major General Percy Hobart. Hobart was a brilliant but famously difficult officer. His radical ideas about armoured warfare, his insistence on innovation, had made him more enemies than friends within the military establishment. Instead of a promotion, his reward for being ahead of his time was forced retirement. By 1940, this visionary military mind was reduced to serving in the Home Guard as a corporal, drilling local shopkeepers with broomsticks. But Winston Churchill, a man who understood that wars are won by those who dare to think differently, wasn't about to let such a mind go to waste. When the Prime Minister discovered that one of Britain's most creative thinkers on armoured warfare was playing soldier in his village, he intervened personally. He ordered Hobart's immediate reinstatement, overruling the very generals who had cast him out. Churchill's directive was typically blunt and to the point: prepare our armoured forces for the invasion of Europe. Do whatever is necessary. Hobart attacked this new mission with his trademark ferocity. He knew that invading occupied Europe would present challenges on an unprecedented scale. They would face dense minefields, massive anti-tank ditches, towering seawalls, treacherous soft sand, endless barbed wire, and heavily fortified bunkers. The traditional methods for dealing with these obstacles, like sending soldiers to probe for mines by hand, would take days and cost thousands of lives. The invasion would be over before it even began. Hobart's solution was mechanization. But not just building stronger tanks. He envisioned a whole menagerie of specialized armored vehicles, each one a unique tool designed to solve a specific problem. But he wasn't building an army. He was building a toolbox. In 1943, Hobart was given command of the 79th Armored Division. This was a unique unit, one not meant to fight battles directly, but to solve the engineering puzzles that made battles unwinnable. His headquarters became a laboratory of steel and ingenuity, a place where wild ideas were hammered into reality. The most urgent problem was, of course, the mines. German engineers had sown millions of them along the Atlantic Wall. In some places, there were as many as 15 mines packed into a single meter of coastline. Hobart's team looked for inspiration and found it in some early desert experiments, where engineers had attached rotating drums and chains to tanks to detonate mines. The concept was crude, but it was a start. Hobart ordered a complete redesign, using the reliable American Sherman tank as the base. The result was the Sherman Crab. This beast was fitted with a 3-meter-wide drum from which hung 98 heavy, flailing chains. Powered by its own engine, the drum would spin at 140 revolutions per minute, thrashing the ground ahead and triggering mines from a safe distance. The Crab could clear a 3-meter-wide path at a steady walking speed. It was slow, but it was infinitely faster and safer than sending men out to do it by hand. Operating a Crab was a nightmare. The noise inside was deafening. Visibility was almost zero. The constant explosions from detonating mines battered the vehicle and its crew. Chains snapped constantly, and dust clouds would blind the driver. Communication was impossible over the roar, so crews had to master a complex system of hand signals and become experts at emergency repairs. But for the soldiers who followed in their wake, the roar of a crab's flails was the most beautiful sound in the world. It was the sound of survival. But Hobart didn't stop at mines. He knew every challenge of the invasion needed its own unique solution, so his menagerie grew. There was the Avra, the Armoured Vehicle Royal Engineers. Built on the chassis of the heavy Churchill tank, the Avra carried a massive 290mm mortar. Its projectile was a 40-pound explosive charge, nicknamed the Flying Dustbin, and it could shatter a reinforced concrete bunker at point-blank range. AVREs could also be fitted to carry and lay small bridges, drop massive bundles of logs called fascines into anti-tank ditches, or unroll a giant carpet of coconut fibre matting to create a road across soft sand. Then there was the crocodile flamethrower. This terrifying version of the Churchill tank replaced its machine gun with a flamethrower that drew fuel from an armoured trailer towed behind it. It could shoot a jet of burning gel over 100 meters. Often, the psychological impact was enough. German soldiers would surrender the moment they saw the crocodile preparing to fire, long before the flames ever reached them. And there were more. Armoured ramp carriers, or ARCs, were tanks that could drive up to a seawall and deploy ramps, allowing other tanks to simply drive up and over. The double onion device could fire explosive charges to blast paths through barbed wire and other obstacles. And the Canal Defence Light tanks were fitted with incredibly powerful searchlights, capable of turning night into day to dazzle defenders during a surprise attack. Each of these machines was part of a clear philosophy. No single weapon could solve every problem, but a combination of specialized tools used together could overcome any defense. By June of 1944, Hobart S 79th Armoured Division had over 300 Sherman Crabs and hundreds of these other specialized vehicles ready for action. And on D-Day, their value was proven beyond any doubt. While American forces at Omaha Beach were paying a horrific price for every yard of sand. The British and Canadian troops on their beaches were advancing steadily inland, with comparatively low losses. The machines, once mocked as Hobart-S funnies by skeptics, had proven to be the decisive factor between disaster and success. The legacy of Percy Hobart and his strange, ingenious machines is immense. They didn't just clear the beaches of Normandy, they fundamentally reshaped the field of military engineering. The principles of task-specific mechanization, of creating the right tool for the right job, were adopted by armies all around the world. And so, the man who was once exiled to the Home Guard, the brilliant mind that the establishment had rejected, ended up changing the course of modern warfare. He did it with grit, with ingenuity, and with a collection of the strangest, most wonderful, and most life-saving machines ever to roll onto a battlefield. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more stories from history. We'll see you in the next one.